गुड इवनिंग एंड वेलकम टू गना शॉट। गना शॉट में आप सबका स्वागत है। टुडे वी गोना टॉक ऑफ द पाथ टू विकसित भारत एट 2047 and joining me is General Vinod Kandare for the first time on Gana Shot to talk about it. And at the outset, I'd like to welcome General Kandare. Uh, Thanks a lot for joining in, and it's a great honor that you're on Gana Shot, General Kandare. Good evening to you.
Good evening, Jai Hind to your viewers, sir, and it's my singular honor to be sharing a screen stage with you. You've been our senior who's influenced so many people. I think I am privileged and honored to be with you, sir.
Well, thanks a lot. And before we get into the subject proper, I'd like to tell everyone, General Vinod Kandare needs no introduction. But having said that, I have known him from a long time, and I've always known him to be an outstanding professional. And you'll get a first-hand taste of it after I yield the floor to him. But uh, his most important contribution actually came after he left service. And I felt after service 2018 when he retired, until recently when he was, with the Raksha Mantri as his special advisor. And he's guided a lot of things in the modernization of the army, not the army, the armed forces. I think he's played a very critical time. And his, role in this whole process of transformation uh, will not be really known to many people, but I know it. And a lot of what we achieved in Ops Indoor, if you trace it back, it'll go back to what he's done. He's been a great proponent of Atmanirbhar Bharat. He's been a great proponent of indigenization. He's been a great proponent of how to speed up acquisition and streamline acquisitions. It's just not speeding up, it's also streamlining acquisitions. That is why I thought I will, invite him onto Gunner Shot and speak and give him a free rein to what he spoke. I could have called him earlier, but I never called him earlier for only one reason. He was in service. And in service, it's best that people don't come and, talk because, it's not good for many reasons. But now that he's, finished his tenure with the MOD and he's free to talk, and he's going to enlighten us about many things. Just to set the stage, though our talk is about Viksit Bharat at 2047, I'm sure he's going to touch upon Surakshit Bharat also. Because Viksit Bharat and Surakshit Bharat are two sides of the same coin. And I think his contribution to Viksit Bharat, lies or it was in the realm of making a Surakshit Bharat. And it is through this Surakshit Bharat that Viksit Bharat automatically takes place. Right? I have said what I had to say. Look, and I'm going to give free rein to him. General Vinod Kandare, you're free to speak what do you want. The floor is all yours. Over to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Firstly, when I talk to your audience, sir, I'll be talking more as a citizen of India because we all dream of the best possible times for the future generation. Now, what do I mean by that? Anyone can Google, sir, and look for reforms. If you just type reforms and Viksit Bharat, you'll find whole lot of material, whole lot of seminars, whole lot of speeches given by people as to what should be done. But most of it is talking about what it should be the GDP be, what should be the growth rate be. So our focus as a nation has been on what? So far, it has been towards how to make India or Bharat a great economic power. Very correct, एकदम सही. We should become a great economic power और उसी के साथ we will achieve a position where you become a country to reckon with. ये यहाँ तक so far so good. And what you correctly said, sir, you are not Surakshit. then your destiny will be what we saw in the past, सोने की चिड़िया, and then you become a slave. So that exactly is the point where we must start focusing on what reforms do we need. I think economic reform, by and large, everyone has been working at. A lot of people have been talking about structural reform. People have been talking about we should do this and the government should do that. And most of the material that is available today is all prompting the government what they should do. ठीक है, agreed. What the government should do is absolutely correct, and I understand why it is so. But I want to focus, in addition to the Surakshit Bharat angle that you said, sir, what should rest of the people who are not in the government, what should they be doing? And there is a lot of scope and there is a lot of possibility that we need to do something more than what the government does. Now, let's say we become a great economic power and we do not keep our capability to protect this growth. So, now, firstly, whatever elements that we have in comprehensive national power are the same elements that need to be protected. So, comprehensive national power and comprehensive national security will go hand in hand. The first part. So, there are drivers of growth, and in that, if I start counting, economy will go ahead if we have agricultural security, food security, water security, energy security. There are so many things in this. Now, one of the things which just came out of Sindoor was about the Indus Water Treaty. Indus Water Treaty only from water? Possibly yes. The same water, can it be used for inland waterways? Definitely yes. Are we thinking about it? Yes. Many people feel that this Indus Water Treaty was just pulled out of the hat. It is not so. 2019, a study was done at the NSAB. Mr. Devinder Sharma was pulled into NSAB. It was a study which was being pushed by me as the military advisor, and a proper study was done as to how much of water is our entitlement, how much of water is Pakistan's entitlement, and is Pakistan getting its entitlement or more than that? And we realized that for decades together, Pakistan has been an inadvertent beneficiary of our incompetence. A lot of water was escaping. We all from the armed forces, and most of your audience, sir, would be from the armed forces and the students and the faculty. They all know what is Harike. They all know what are the reservoirs. Everyone knows that Himalayan rivers bring a lot of silt. They all know that big dams have been silted right up to the top. Desilting notionally may have been carried out every year. Budgets have been utilized. But after that, what has happened? The pondage, the storage has reduced. So when we are talking about water security, and you know that there are inundation schemes and such things which we cannot speak, but notionally water is there, but actually it is not there. So once we start reducing that silt, then the water storage improves. Secondly, wherever we have such unstable mountains and there is a problem of silt, running water is a better storage than a still water. So I think what the government has done well. What next? So whatever we start creating waterways using the same water, problem of Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan can be reduced. Be ambitious enough, go down to Gujarat, create waterways. So the pressure, despite so much of infrastructure growth in rail and road, is likely to reduce if we are able to push forward the waterways. So this is just one thing which I told you. Are there any other places where we can create waterways? Yes, of course. Uh, can that same waterway also uh, benefit us from floods ravaging certain areas. So there are a lot of Himalayan rivers coming from Nepal, which practically wash away certain parts of Bihar and eastern UP. So that is another scope. The third area which we had identified and which is still being worked upon is eastern Maharashtra. Anybody opens that map, you'll see there are plenty of eastern rivers which flow to Bay of Bengal, and there's so much of mineral mining which happens in Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, eastern Maharashtra, that is east of Vidarbha, and all that is moved by trains. So much of cost, and most of it is that raw material. So if we are able to create waterways here linking, then obviously this part and the Maoist problem, a large amount of that gets controlled. Now, out of these three schemes, so far, one major announcement, that is Indus Water Treaty. So far, nothing that has been spoken in Uttar Pradesh. But Eastern Maharashtra, I think, very outspoken and forward-looking Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis, went and announced it 2 years back. Now, whether they have done something or not, I may not be very sure about that. But I think that is the way forward. That if you have to reduce your pressures on the transportation infrastructure, we need to look more towards waterways. So that is the first part that will also ensure our water security. The next part is if we are able to uh, look beyond just Indus Water Treaty, people want to suggest what happens towards Brahmaputra, because China will start creating problems for us. They already have created, they're not sharing data with us. So to expect magnanimity or benevolence from China is, I think, being unrealistic. So we should very clearly be looking at how much of catchment area of Brahmaputra gets us water, and I think bulk of it, more than 65% of it, comes from our side of the watershed. So I think that would be good enough, and more studies are being done. So again, Vision 2047 will have to be looked at from Brahmaputra side also, and northeastern portion, quite a few rivers can be interlinked. Uh, Water which comes from Meghalaya, from Assam, from Barak River, these are all good water sources. So I'll stop on the water part here. Now, energy, sir. Now, the point about energy is, if we are about 3.5 or 4 trillion economy today, and we are looking at 35 or 30 trillion economy by 2047, it's about 10 times the requirement of resource utilization. Where am I aiming at? Energy. So if your manufacturing has to grow up, your energy has to rise by 10 times. Are we there? We have to do much more. Now, whether it is energy generation, power storage, so, and when we know that this is the requirement, so this is the time actually for industrialists, especially in the private sector, to get into renewable energy. A lot of people will say renewable energy cannot ever replace the current sources of energy, but it's not a bad option to go for it. China has also done that, and that is the only thing you will be able to reduce cost of production, and also reduce this leveraging which is done by superpowers. Every time the cost goes up, you are at the mercy of those. So I think renewable energy and storage, and the best possible way of doing this, I think that is the second point I want to make here, sir. Now, one issue is about the human resource. We all keep talking of the demographic dividend. Yes, I agree. Statistically, yes. Quantitatively, yes. 1.4 billion population, 60% of that youth. 1 billion users of internet, smart devices. This is all fine, sir. But if we have to get serious in production, we have to reduce the cost of production, then skills. The moment a student leaves school or college, is he job ready? Now, these are very difficult questions, sir, which I am posing, and I can pose it only to the Indian audience because finally our stakes are involved in our future. Now, is the present education system catering for it? Even today, despite the new education policy being promulgated, but its implementation is still taking time for the qualitative change. I think one of the reason could be because the quality of faculty, the attitude of the faculty needs to be worked upon. So, if you remember, long time back when we were struggling with majority of our population being uneducated, there were programs like adult education. I think faculty education will also have to be done. Otherwise, there will always be a constant struggle between the students' aspirations and the pressure from the faculty to score 95% plus, CGPA 9 plus, and then not being job ready. So I think the human resource in terms of skilling is the first challenge. The second one is, which is more serious, is about the health. What do I mean by that? Please look around you and you see the youth. Quite a few of the youth may not be in the best of health. And when I'm saying youth, sir, let me go beyond the term youth. The ones who contribute to the nation, say 25 to 40. In one of my visits to one of the major cities, somebody who approached, somebody was talking to me and said, you know, sir, we are so well off that we are known as the diabetes capital of India. And I had to actually ask him with a very serious face, are you joking? Are you serious? Are you trying to tell me that having diabetes is a sign of wealth? What do you mean exactly? Are you the one feeding the pharma industry, which is making money at your cost, and you're not able to pay back to society? The realization that every time you fall sick, every time you're not able to work, it is at the cost of the national prosperity and at the cost of national security. So, uh, curative approach or wellness approach? If we are looking at 2047, are we looking at more number of sick people to look after? Or are we looking at healthy people being there, having contributed to the national growth and being there to enjoy the fruits of it? If there are more number of centurions in Japan, Japan also struggled through, and the people who are the centurions there are the ones who contributed to the growth of Japan. It's not that those who contributed have suddenly perished. It's not that. So I think that is one more issue. I actually, sir, when I started looking at what is it that ails the nation, my small little research shows that a lot of wastages or maximum wastages in the nation till now in the last 6 7 decades have been due to poor governance, suboptimal law enforcement. What do I mean by that? Either you have the law not enforced properly, or you don't have a suitable law. So obviously there is no enforcement. And the third thing which comes beyond that, even if the law enforcement agencies are able to crack the whip, there is a judiciary from where there is an exit, honorable exit, and the common man or the citizen is left wondering as to what exactly is this. Now, I was going through certain portions of the constitution, sir, and directive principles of state. Now, see the word, sir, directive principles of state. These are directives for the state. These are not for citizens. For the citizen, there's a separate chapter on fundamental duties. Now, in that directive principles of the state, it is very clearly given what exactly is expected of the state to do. Anyone who's here can open that page, and it is mentioned very clearly how the country should be governed. Now, a lot of people have been making wild guesses and saying that our constitution is a hodgepodge and picked up things from here and there. I also went through Kautilya's Arthashastra, and I realized a lot of things which he had mentioned about how a state is to be run is also mentioned in the directive principles of state. So then that ancient wisdom and now what has been given to us less than 100 years back. So obviously there were great people who had great vision, and that needs to be implemented. Now, who will implement it? So we have the judiciary; they need to implement it. So judicial reforms are overdue. That is the reason why crores of cases are pending. You have the administrative reforms. ICS, Indian Civil Services, transformed into Indian Administrative Service. Has the colonial mindset gone? Not everywhere. Some new young blood you see, they are very good. They are actually getting down and doing things on their own. I heard a very nice statement made by someone that IS officers, you tell them what to do, they will do it brilliantly. But for them to visualize something and do it, whether they don't want to stick out the neck or whatever it is, but finally we need those IS officers or even state administrative service officers whose vision aligns with vision of our honorable prime minister and of the nation of Viksit and Surakshit Bharat. So obviously they need to be people who are drivers of this growth and security rather than managers of growth. They should not be a part of the regulation. They should be a part of those people who propel growth and ensure security. Now, regarding the law enforcement agencies, there is something fundamentally maybe needs a change. Um, okay, the constant discussion on federalism and unitary form of government and what the constitution gave us in the form of a central list, a state list, and a concurrent list. I've gone through all that. I understand. But then, so far, about 105 amendments in the last 7 decades have happened to the constitution. Why have they happened? Why are constitutional amendments a must? Again, there, when we look at constitutional amendments, why they are a must? If you have to have a living constitution, what do I mean by living constitution? Something which helps you, then you must definitely be open to constitutional amendments, and you cannot make it into an electoral issue and pollute the environment whereby people start thinking that why is the constitutional being tampered. Now, there is a particular write up in which it says constitutional amendments are essential for a living constitution, allowing it to adapt to changing societal needs and values. Now, obviously, change is constant. And if you have societal values changing and you have the geopolitical issues changing, then that is the reason why you need it. Amendments are needed to address issues like social justice, economic reforms. Here is it, economic reform. You started in 1947 with a particular socialist thought. Now you have to compete with your adversaries who are on a very fast track growth. In addition to that, it says the constitution remains relevant and reflective of the country's evolving aspiration. I think so, very well worded, and that is the reason why we must emphasize on the new generation and on those people who are in the parliament that amendments are not bad. Amendments are required, and if we have to not do incremental changes, we will have to do leapfrogging. Otherwise, we will always be left behind. So that is something I thought we must set it right, that a lot of people during these elections felt constitutional tampering is bad. It's not. People have already done it. We will need more. Okay. can I give an example on this? Yes, I can give an example. People may agree or people may not agree. But let me just tell you, sir, the structure of the police services. Now, because it is at the level of state and also at the level of concurrent list, so you have the officering done by the IPS officers who are from a central force, but again, given to the states, a particular cadre is assigned to them. But what about the rank and file? Now, rank and file are from that particular state. So let's analyze what goes on in the policeman's mind. He has to live there, he has to settle his kids there, and he has to survive post retirement also. Do you really expect a person to take so much of risk and be a whistleblower or call out and be so strong that he would be able to control or ensure law and order in that particular state? He has to be a superhuman. I think we are being unrealistic in that. Take another example. Take any state. You can put a finger wherever there is a problem happening, whether it's in the east, whether it's in the north. Assume for a moment that this was an all India service, and there were people, say, out of the 28 states, we had people 3% from each of the state in that particular state. I'm sure things would have been much better. Now, this is a thought which will require a lot of deliberation. People will be against it to say you're tampering with the constitution. I started by saying that you will have to do it. And if you don't do it, you'll have agitation, you'll have things being burnt, you'll have police putting up a very slipshod investigation. And after about 5, 10 years, the case becomes zero because inadequate evidence has been provided. Is the common man going to continue paying from his tax for all the destruction that we've been doing? Hypothetically, even if a chartered accountant is to calculate all that we have destroyed and thereafter given as, say, insurance or the kind of rewards or the kind of awards that are said, accident has happened, or okay, the state government has promised so and so. Is that the best way to run a country? I think, sir, we need to be very serious about this. And whether the present structure needs a change, when should it be brought in, how should it be brought in, is a separate issue of debate. Now, another point I want to make, which got highlighted during COVID, sir. Very good, qualified scientists, doctors, engineers died. Um, Excellent people who may not have been professionals but very good citizens have also died. Is the health sector in its prime, or is it being pushed and run through the pharma? Okay, leave pharma aside, sir. If every state has to create a primary health center in most of the villages, there is a particular format that we must look at. What does a primary health center need? And again, this is also a part of that state policy where you have to look after the health of your citizens. If you go to most of these primary health centers, so you'll realize that there is only one room for possibly the doctor or the pharmacist, one more room possibly if it is slightly honest construction, and a veranda. What I was told by somebody from the health department was the original plan has been 5 rooms: the doctor, the pharmacist, the dispensary, the waiting room, and the detention room. Now, where have all these rooms disappeared? In the bargain, you again had to incur expenditure trying to create camps. Pandemics are not here to go, sir. In fact, in the United States security doctrine, this is one of the threats which have been very clearly enunciated, that this is a threat which will continue. And when you have adversaries who are playing around with biological agents, to feel that COVID was the first one and the last one, I think one is being very naive. So, again, health is where we have to focus on a lot of wellness rather than on the corporate culture where your status is decided based on the type of insurance you bring in. So I leave this point here, but health is extremely important, and I think this is important even for the armed forces. By having huge, costly machines, and not ensuring wellness down to the soldier level or the cadet level, I think we need to look at it again. The next point I have is on the education sector. While I mentioned about the skilling part earlier, sir, that was with special reference to skilling and being job ready when you leave. But let me come to education sector. Say, I'll take an example of J&K. There have been generations there who did not attend proper schooling or university because of the stone pelting, because of the agitation, and then they got through. Similar thing seems to be happening in Manipur. Now, what exactly, maybe even Bengal? So, if we were to say that this is one huge country and anybody studying in J&K should be capable of getting a job in Kerala, is it realistic? I think again we have to standardize the curriculum. We have to standardize everything where a person can move from northeast to any other place and not look only at hospitality industry, but be able to compete in everything and not again being a beneficiary of being SC/ST, so you get into a good job. No, that should not be the case. I think on principles of meritocracy, so for which education sector needs to be revived and a fresh look, and maybe the education should be there, but I think there should be some prominent citizens also who have good vision. They may not have worked always in the education sector, but their heart bleeds for the country. I think they should also get into that. One more issue which is important, when we talk of economy, when we talk of global diplomacy, the image of the country is extremely important, and tourism sector there is extremely important, of those going out and the tourists coming in. Is the country of that standard today in cleanliness and in efficiency to handle tourists who are coming from that part of the world where everything is spick and span, clean? At many places, we are quite good and we are quite efficient. Recently, we were coming back from Europe, and Admiral Anund Prakash and me, we were standing at an airport, and we both said, "Look at the kind of mess that these people have created at the airport. They can't handle huge groups of people, but the moment you land in Delhi, everything is so smooth." So, what is good needs to be complemented, but what is not good and what is not good is particularly the cleanliness. Uh, we talk of no plastic, but the moment you get out of a city or even a village or even a tier 2, 3 town, you find whole lot of plastic floating around. That's not something that we should be proud of. And it cannot be that my house is clean, my locality is clean. I think what can be done is look at Indore. That is something which is right here in the center of the country. 7 times cleanest city. You look at how waste disposal and how energy is getting created out of it, and buses are being run on that. Why are we unable to emulate the good example here? So that is something again, I want to leave it here, that tourism in terms of cleanliness, and next is the, if you have good law enforcement and the safety of the tourists is being ensured, more tourists will come. They'll take good stories about us. So 2047 should not be only on economic growth, but even on the reputation that we have. Those tourists who go abroad, and if they're going to get us bad name, I think a great disservice to the nation. And how do we do it is again something that comes from education and comes from sanskar from the families. So here, what exactly is to be done? There will be plenty of people with good ideas. Even in Bhutan, when people go there, they are quite kind enough. They don't pester us for entry, but they expect us to behave. And loud blaring music, going in vehicle, is something which is just not done. So similar issues in Nepal, similar issues in Maldives. So I feel responsibility of every individual is there. So citizens have to wake up to the reality. Environment is one more issue connected to this. Forest departments are state subject. Now, this is something which really is mysterious to me. How can a forest or a tree which is growing in Madhya Pradesh with roots in Maharashtra be classified something as a state property? Forests go from one state to another. If that is only for ease of revenue distribution, that can be separated for looking at revenue part. How can you have a tiger moving from Madhya Pradesh to Maharashtra be counted twice? They have mechanism. They have very good forest officers, and they are now using the geospatial technology to map a lot. So that is to the benefit or to the credit of the forest officers. But as a system, do we need a change here? Do we need to look at things differently? I think time to look at it differently. Now, urban planning, again, we have a ministry for that. Most of the places in Africa, the urban planning consultants and specialists have gone from India. They are advising people there. Technology absorption, urban planning has also been taken from India. I will give you an example of Botswana, sir. I went to Botswana in somewhere in 2006 or 7, and what we are seeing as FASTag here and what we are seeing as a single card for every possible identification transaction was already implemented in Botswana in 2007. And when I asked the people there, these were the kids who had gone from Pune and implemented it there. But we could never do it here. Again, another example, 2016, I think, sir, I went to Hyderabad, and I saw one of the private companies. I'm not hesitant to name them. Anand Technologies, big name in geospatial sector. And I asked them, what are these young kids doing? There were three huge buildings, 4 5 floors, and kids who were diploma holders. They were digitizing maps of Saudis and UAE, and also fixing what should be the property tax from each of these built up areas. Have we been able to do it here? Are we scared because Benami properties will get revealed? I'm leaving that to the listeners and the audience to decide. That you we can keep talking of AI, big AI mission. We can talk of quantum. We can talk of blockchain. Blockchain was implemented in UAE long time back. By doing that, litigation reduced. By doing that, a lot of lawyers must have lost their job. Chartered accountants must have lost their job. But efficiency improved. So technology absorption is not only to be thrust from top, but to be pulled from down below also. And that is what will ensure better capabilities developing with us, sir. So now I want to come here and explain uh, there is something known as fundamental duties. Now, people say that, what is the state doing for me? Within the Constitution, sir, there is a chapter on fundamental duties, 51A, which says it shall be the duty of every citizen of India to abide by the Constitution, respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and national anthem. Where is the doubt? But we have a lot of problem here, and we are not able to enforce it. And the judiciary is also not able to support the law enforcement agencies in this. The media makes a big hype about it. I wonder how many of them have read this part. Then another part which is it is our duty to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity, and integrity of India. Now, one additional thing which is very interesting, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. Now, here is a big question: national service when called upon to do so. You may call any number of people, but would they be capable of doing national service? So, by when you mentioned, sir, about Surakshit Bharat, this is the point I want to mention. By 2047, if you are going to call somebody to protect the nation, have we prepared them? Or are we continuing with only what we are doing about NCC? Should we improve this? Conscription may not be the best possible solution here, although we can learn a lot of lessons from how people look forward to contributing to the nation, whether it's Israel, South Korea, or even Singapore. People talk about transparency, people talk about entitlements. A democracy like Singapore has also ensured that whatever monitoring has to be done will be done. South Korea has also done it in the same manner. In South Korea, if you leave your place, if you means you will leave your place for workplace, by the time you leave at 7 o'clock in the morning and you get back home at 7 o'clock, as a rough yardstick, you would have been photographed at about 70 to 90 places. The government knows exactly where you are at what time. So when there is investigation done as to who all were creating a problem for law and order or crime, it doesn't require days together to find out where exactly were you. There was a particular ship of a navy which went, and as always expected, those sailors misbehaved with the people on the coast. So within minutes, the identification had been done. Now we keep saying the ratio or the proportion of citizens to policemen. I think this is the time now we have to start looking at technology absorption. Another way where crime is minimized or traced quickly. Quite a few of these African countries, sir, are having their cattle as the national wealth. When you had the mad cow disease, most beneficiaries were Latin American nations and African nations. I saw that when a calf is born, a chip is inserted into that with all details of the owner, the place of birth, etc., etc., etc. Anybody can steal that calf, feed it. Slaughterhouses are meant to be with the government. You may have stolen, you may have fed the calf, but the payment will go to the owner where the calf was born. Now, this is what, and who did this again? These young kids who went from Hyderabad. So the point here is ease of adopting technology and the essentiality of adopting technology so that wasteful expenditures, repetitive expenditures, that reduces. So if we are able to ensure proper utilization of the money, and before we started, sir, you mentioned about how much money will be given. And I still maintain whatever money is given, how best do we utilize that? Now, coming specifically to the security part and Atmanirbharta, which you mentioned, and you were very kind to mention whatever I had been doing. A couple of things which I want to leave the audience with. As we keep going more and more into indigenized production, designing and development is different, but I'm talking of production. All these defense industries, whether in private or public sector, have to be very clear about their cyber security. If they're not clear about their cyber security, the entire details which the services have given them will leak. Your design leaks, everything is gone. We've had a couple of cases, few so far, or at least few reported, where the industry was attacked, ransomware, 7 days, nothing was allowed to move. The losses is a separate issue, but what all data has been stolen, one is not sure. After that, a couple of weeks later, that factory had explosion. Now let's look at it very seriously. It is not infringement or encroachment on the rights of a particular industry, but because you're dealing with this, you must be very clear about how to look after the security, the cyber security, and along with cyber security is the data security. Now we all by 2047, are we going to be happy with what we are doing today, using WhatsApp from USA, using Facebook from USA? Are we still not going to encourage our own indigenous network? Data security is the first point, data sovereignty comes much later. Because we are residing and we are moving on one network which has internet given to us by USA, and a false feeling that WhatsApp is free, Facebook is free, Instagram is free, and that has made our youngsters so complacent that anything and everything is moving there. How does it endanger us? All data once it goes into big data analysis abroad, the sentiment analysis immediately is done, and then the narrative gets pushed to us, whether in the form of a TikTok, whether in the form of a commercial advertisement. But essentially, your mind is now being manipulated by those abroad who have controlled the entire data. So I think we need to again here look at, are we truly involved in indigenization and Atmanirbharta? Okay, fine. Some of us in the government would be doing it, but as a citizen, what can I do? As a citizen, if there is an Indian option, and even if I have to pay for something, I think we should go for it. For example, Google Map. Is there an Indian option? Yes, Map My India. Why is it not able to expand as fast? And please, don't take me wrong, I don't have any equity there. But this is the only solution that I can think of. And if you are able to work on Map My India, or if fake news has to be ascertained and there is somebody in India who can do it for you, or if there is antivirus Zoho, a cloud Zoho, video conferencing on Zoho, why not? So if we are to popularize it and commercialize it, then more people here would be interested. In fact, in the army, there was one officer, Colonel Sai, who had created WhatsApp. His unit was completely running on it for his entire command tenure. I was also using the same WhatsApp equivalent, but obviously nobody else in the army or armed forces or even in the civil society wanted to do it. He had to close it and move. So again, everything cannot be done by the government. I think civil society will have to pitch in to a large extent about how we will have to commercialize it. Otherwise, the big giants will never allow any small person to succeed in that. Now, what else do we need to do? People will talk big de-dollarization. People will talk of BRICS currency. People will talk of many things. One good thing that the government started doing in the last couple of months is buying gold so that you become strong. Now, this is what we also have to do. Wherever we find adversaries who are threats to our security and economy, one good decision that was taken by a lot of citizens on their own was to boycott Turkey. Are we doing the same thing to China? Is it practical to be done? May not be in the same, say, quantity or same same amount that we did to Turkey or to Azerbaijan. But gradually, whatever we start doing, we have to start looking at China in that particular manner and look at how we can reduce our dependence on China. One example is tunnel boring machines. Every state, every bigger agency is pushing for creating tunnels. Where are the machines coming from? China. Which is the company which owns it? Germany. But manufactured where? In China. So if any delay that takes place of the machine coming to India, your infrastructure is delayed by that much. So these are certain issues which we need to definitely look at, and this is just tip of the iceberg which I have covered. There are many things in case somebody wants to ask a question, because I realize that it's already 7:50. So I will
Yeah,
stop here and
yeah,
let the floor open, sir.
yeah. Thanks a lot. I thought that was a wonderful way of putting a lot of things. Look, he touched upon waterways, energy, human resources, health. Health is wealth, governance, law and order, police, administrative reforms, constitutional amendments, pandemic management, wellness, education, skilling, right? Quality, meritocracy versus reservation, tourism, cleanliness, citizen consciousness, uh, reputational value of India, environment, urban planning, cybersecurity, national service, the works. I just listed it out. And I very interestedly kept noting all these down because we were getting something fundamental. And he said something, and I would like to connect and highlight what he said. He spoke of the Constitution. You know, forget about the GDP, forget about everything. if every person does what is given in the Constitution, because all these items are given in the Constitution in some form or the other.
Exactly.
Okay? What and if we do what is our constitutional responsibility, which is given in the fundamental duties of the individual to the Constitution and to the nation will progress. And what I've learned now in the past 1 hour is, it's not learning, relearning. Let forget what you want the country to do to you. Do what you can do for your country, and just start. You just start where you are and do what you can, and do it to the best of your capability. And don't think of too many other things, right? I think that is the major lesson which I take away from here. Okay,